You want someone who's going to take on Washington and not back down, even tested leadership, someone who can actually do more than talk about it, get it done. Again, we've seen it with this president. You put an apprentice in, someone who's never actually run something in government before. We see the troubles we have in America. It's precisely why I'm the only one on the stage and the only one to talk about having a plan to repeal Obamacare and put patients and families back in charge of the health care. As I said, I would put that up on day one, and then to get the Congress to act on it, I would sign an executive order that made Congress live by the same measures as everybody else.
But your apprentice line seemed directed specifically toward Donald Trump.
Well, again, it's one of those where I think Americans got to look at the fact we have an apprentice, we have a novice in the White House. We don't need another one out there, and that's a clear contrast out there. I don't think America needs another apprentice in the White House. They need someone who's been tested. We've been tested unlike anybody else. Something in our state, we stepped up and did incredible work to help improve veteran services and to lower unemployment rate amongst veterans. We need a president who's going to take this issue seriously. Part of it I mentioned the other day goes to our plan to eliminate federal public employee unions, because right now there's the latest numbers we have for 2012 show 3.3 million hours were paid for by the taxpayers, 156 million. What that means for veterans is there's over 250 people in the Veterans Administration, federal employees, who are actually paid 100% of their payroll, and that includes nurses, pharmacists, other healthcare professionals. Instead of caring for veterans, they're doing union work. That's wrong. They should be actually helping veterans.
Your campaign took a bit of a hit in the polls after the last debate. Do you think you did enough tonight? How did it feel different tonight?
Well, I think being aggressive, again, we set the tone early on. We set a contrast out there. I'm sure Donald Trump's a nice guy, and I certainly appreciate the work he's done in the private sector, but Americans don't need another apprentice in the White House. We've seen how that's failed. We've seen what that did with Barack Obama being elected, a guy who's never run anything in government before. I think Americans, when they look at the details and they look at the contrast of all the candidates they saw up there, they're going to want someone who can take on the machine in Washington. People have had it with Washington. They've had it with the politics in Washington. People not being able to get things done. What they want, someone who can actually get things done, and we've shown we can do it, and we've got the plan to do it.
Governor, why have you been falling in the polls?
What's that?
Why have you been losing support in the polls, do you think?
Well, Ronald Reagan at this point shook things up in his campaign, and he got refocused on being a successful governor and laying out a positive plan for moving this country forward. I believe just as Reagan was victorious in 1980, we will be victorious if we highlight our good record, positive record of taking on the big government special interests, many of which are based in Washington, and then laying out our plan, whether it's on repealing Obamacare, terminating the bad deal with Iran on day one, taking on the big government union bosses and putting power back in the American people. I think the more we do that, the better off we're going to be.
You said shake up your campaign. How are you going to be shaking your campaign up?
Part of it you saw tonight. We were much more aggressive. A lot of people said it from the first debate. We were solid, but not as aggressive. We were aggressive right off the bat. We laid the contrast out there. Again, as I've said repeatedly early on, I don't think Americans need another apprentice in the White House. We've had one under this president. It has failed. What we need are tested leadership, people with real ideas and real solutions. We're the ones laying those solutions out. As I mentioned tonight, I'm the only one on the stage who's got a real plan that we've introduced to repeal Obamacare. You can say it, but unless you've got a plan, it's not going to happen.